إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب.
May the peace and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon us. This is Islam and Science, a program brought to you by the Wahab Adam Studios of MTA International Africa. On this show, we always try to find answers to questions relating to issues where many people think Islam and science diverge. It is in the minds of many that Islam is opposed to science. Thus, religious people say it is not entirely correct because there are certain things about religion that scientific research have not reached yet. And based on lack of understanding, we say the two diverge. On this show, we always try to find solution to such topics. And today, we are looking at life after death. And my guests for this discussion are Dr. Abdullah Munir Dawood. He is a research scientist at Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. Gentlemen, welcome to Islam and Science.
Thank you very much.
And then next to him, to my immediate left, my extreme left, is Molvi Abdul Rauf Omoyele. He is a lecturer at Jamia Ahmadiyya International. He is situated at Mankesem. Gentlemen, welcome to Islam and Science. Yes, many religions have their belief in this concept of life after death, and Islam is no exception. It is stated in the Holy Quran that every soul shall taste of death. Doctor, do you believe in that?
Yeah, I mean, my belief based on, from science standpoint,
Yes.
is what I would like to submit here. Yeah, from science standpoint, life after death, especially in recent times, have become very popular subject of study.
Yeah.
But it is important to note that life after death, or what is usually called the afterlife or the second life, as understood from science standpoint, is quite a different phenomenon or a different experience from that of the religious viewpoint. In the circles of science, there are certain situations that are faced by people and they are declared dead. For example, a person can be declared clinically dead and maybe will still continue to be on a life support, and for some reason, sometimes, most often, miraculously, they come back to life. This situation is also described as life after death. And in recent times, there has been some studies which pertains to the study of what happens during that period when people are declared clinically dead. And experiences have been collected from thousands of people who have gone through this situation. And if you read most of these publications, you realize that they talk about their feelings or some experiences that they undergo during this period, and mostly based on fear or of what they hear around them, of maybe their closest family members or their clinicians, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, the situation of life after death, from the science point, is just, one coming back to life when they have been declared clinically dead. And clinically deaf does not mean absolute death.
So I want to emphasize on this. I would want to know, the Quran says, every soul shall taste death. So briefly, will every soul taste death?
Yeah, that is for sure, because this is certain, because we see people live and die every day. So as for the question of death, it is not arguable.
So what evidence is there in the Holy Quran and the Hadith concerning this? That every soul shall taste death.
It is the Quranic verse you recited. You mentioned the verse of the Quran. And as you mentioned, it's something that is very obvious. And the Quran does not require us to believe in it. It doesn't state that kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut, that every soul shall taste death, is a sign, is a thing that you need to have faith in. No. I believe it is stating it as a fact to draw attention that you die. Okay. It is not your own desire. Because man will not want to die. Will want to live long. But death is a doing of somebody else.
Okay.
That is bringing it upon. Because man will not want to, generally, man will not want to cause his death. You're not the one who brought yourself into this life.
Okay.
Neither will you take yourself away. Okay. So when God is telling us that every soul shall taste death, drawing our attention to that reality, that fact, is only trying to tell us that it is something else, somebody else is there, and you call you to account for what you have done. Okay. Almighty Allah says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, chapter 23 of the Old Quran, verse 116, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Before that, it has described the creation of the heavens and the earth and every other things, and then comes to man and says that, you think that we have created you for no purpose, just created you to come and enjoy, play, wake up, drink, sleep, and do all these things, and that you will not return to us? Okay. He says, no, it is not so. فَتَعَالَى اللَّهُ الْمَلْكُ الْحَقِّ. Glory be to Allah, the exalted, that is the true Lord. So it's only drawing our attention that you will still return back to me. And when he's saying that you will come back to me, meaning that you will go to meet him, you have to give account of how you have spent your life. He says he has not created you for play, for just no reason. Okay. So meaning that when it's not for, when it isn't for just vain purpose, I mean there's a purpose. And after you've spent your life here in this earth, you'll go back to give account of how you've spent your life.
Okay. So after the soul is dead, every living being must die. So after death, what happens next?
What will happen next? The reality of that world, I would say, the Quran says that no soul knows about it. Nobody is aware of it fully. Okay. Neither does the Holy Prophet ﷺ, in the narrations also mentioned that La aynun ra'at wa la udhun sami'at, no eyes have ever seen it, no ears ever heard of it, and that it doesn't come upon the mind of anybody. Nobody can conceptualize it, can say this is how it will be exactly. Okay. But religion makes the Holy Quran explains that because it is very important. Okay. And man, it's impossible for man himself to discover it. Okay. So it has given us explanations about how it will be. Okay. It's described about the significance of the soul, and it makes us realize that once the soul is created, it is never destroyed. Okay. And what we call death is a transformation from one condition to another, and that in the hereafter, this body cannot experience things of the hereafter. Okay. So we need another faculties, we need another body to be able to experience things of that, okay. That world. And it is the soul that will be needed there. So once we die, the soul, once created, will never die. And the soul is having connection with the body. Okay. So this soul leaves this body, the body serves as a shell for it. It leaves it and proceeds to the next world, where it manifests itself as body of the next world, and another soul is created. So it's we will say that the next life is going to be, in one way we say it's going to be physical. Okay. Because the soul, what we have been experiencing spiritually here, will manifest itself physically there. We won't need the body of this soul, because this body, the way it is being made up of, it's impossible for it to experience things of that, of the other world.
Okay.
If you give me time, the Quran draws our attention when it talks about God taking the soul. It says the Almighty Allah takes the soul at the time of death.
Okay.
It takes it completely. And those souls that will not die, those people that will not die, will return it back and take it. It takes it only at the time of sleep.
Okay.
And this to meaning that one is complete taking, one is partial taking. And at the end, it says there are signs for those who reflect. Okay. Meaning that if we want to have an idea of the next world, the world of dream will give us an idea about it. Where someone sleeps and sees manifestation of things. He sees people, is able to experience it as if it is real. Okay. He sees somebody, he sees things, he sees everything, and he feels that he's in the real world. Okay. But it is just a dream. It's an idea. It's to tell us that that real world is something that will be experienced really. It will be experienced material. Okay. And some experience of the dream are such that they have impact on the physical body. Fear, pain, happiness, many things. You have physical effect on the body.
Okay. So, doctor, once the soul, the body ceases to function, does it end there? What happens next?
Yeah, so from science point of view, the life that we have as we have it is much dependent on our heart.
Okay.
Okay, so the heart, when it ceases, that is when somebody is declared dead.
Okay.
Okay, so, and when the heart ceases, with time, the brains and the organs and everything slowly, okay, they don't instantly stop.
Okay.
It takes a little time for every organ of the body to now come to, rest.
Okay.
So it is a process that takes, some time to, finally occur. Okay. But the taking of the soul, as from the religious point, okay, as has been, explained by Murabi Sahib, it is something that is also certain, okay, in science, because like I explained earlier on, when you are in a state of, clinical death, okay, your soul, it is believed, some scientists also believe that the soul is partially out of the body, okay, but not complete, okay? So you are in a certain state where you are not completely in the physical life, neither are you completely in the spiritual realm. Okay. And so you are in between. So maybe it is not your time, okay, to die. Maybe from a scientific point of view, perhaps the organs and everything, are beginning to heal, okay, are beginning to come to normalcy. Okay. And so when everything becomes normal, then the life, comes back, okay, and then things begin to function the way they're supposed to be. Yeah, so the spiritual realm, there maybe you can concentrate on the soul, okay? But in the physical realm, together, the soul together with, the body and its, organs and all that are required for full life to be in operation.
Okay, so now you do agree that when the body ceases to function, the soul leaves the body. Where does the soul go?
Yeah, so until the body ceases to live, until the body, the soul, yeah, ceases to live in the body, it means that all the functions, all the organs in the body can no more function to contain the soul.
Yes. Okay,
because it is the soul together with the body, that is the organs and everything, that make life one full. Okay. Okay, so you cannot have a soul in a dead body.
Yes. So when the soul leaves,
where does it go? When it leaves completely, then it goes back to wherever it came from. Okay. Okay. It leaves and goes back to its original source. Okay. So, yeah, we cannot say it goes to a particular place, but we know for certain that the soul leaves the body, there's no more life.
So when the soul leaves the body, the soul goes and dies again.
Yeah.
Or possibly, or there is that particular area is grey.
Yeah,
that
is quite a grey area.
Okay.
But we, in this life, science is more about, the physical life.
Okay.
It's more about what we do here.
Okay.
It's more about our body, how it functions, and how nature affects our body in order to function the way it's supposed to be.
Yes.
So once you delve into, the spiritual realm,
okay.
that is another, area that it requires perhaps religion, or maybe a combination of religion and science,
okay.
to deal with it.
Okay. So, Movisar, the second life promises that believers shall be shown mercy. Non-believers shall be punished. Why? Why the difference in treatment, if that actually is true?
What we need to understand that the nature of the soul, as described by the Old Quran, is such that from this world, feelings, thoughts, ideas, they all affect it.
Okay.
Thoughts, feelings, they affect the soul, since the soul is in the body. So it affects it. And I mentioned earlier that when it departs the body, in the next life, it serves as the body of the next world.
Okay.
And then a new soul is generated, just like when the formation of the body in this life was coming. The soul also, it's a fine, delicate system. God Almighty knew how it distilled, the kind of distillation process it came into it. So the same way it will happen in the hereafter. And I mentioned that the soul of this world will become the body of the hereafter, then it have a new soul. And the condition of that body would depend upon the thoughts, the feelings, the actions that you have done in this world. That is, if you're able to, since in the religious point of view, Almighty Allah speaks about purification of the heart, that you should purify your soul. Called aflaha man zakkaha, that person has become prosperous, whoever purifies his soul. Waqad khaba man dassaha. And he who ignores the purification of his soul, he literally destroys it. He has destroyed himself. And I mentioned earlier that the soul once created will never be destroyed. Yes. So in the hereafter, when it's to be formed, the body is to appear. It will appear in the condition which he has treated it in this world. It will not appear in a good shape. Okay. And the person who purifies his soul, abides by the commandments of God, will have, to some extent, make himself healthy, and the body will manifest accordingly. So it's a kind of result of your actions.
Okay.
Whoever is a disbeliever in the sense that he went against the instruction of God, because all the instructions is for our own benefit.
Yeah.
When you see the laws of the religion, the Quran, they are all for our benefit. Okay. You should fast, you should pray, believe in God, accept the messengers, and treat your fellow human beings well, the rights of God. Everything you see is for our benefit. Yeah. So when you don't do these things, you affect your soul, which will manifest itself in the hereafter. Okay. And that's why there's a verse that's talked about the hellfire and says, wa ummuhu awiya. And that Hazrat Muslim, or the second Caliph, has explained that it's showing that wa ummuhu awiya, that his mother will be hawiya, hellfire, is to indicate that like a pregnant mother, a child in the womb grows, it develops. So hellfire will be like that for the disbeliever. Okay. They're treating them, trying to reform their soul, their body back. So definitely when somebody is sick, he's in the hospital, and doctors are treating him, he will of course be in pain. It will not be easy for him. Either to go on operation, any kind of thing. Even if it goes there, I'm saying that you have to amputate some part of the body. It is not that you are doing it out of hatred, but you see that's the necessary step that you have to take. So that is what is necessarily going to happen to the disbelievers. In different instances, it talks about the punishment in terms of the senses, feelings, the hearings. It says what they will hear, it will not be okay for them. They will be hearing it and they will be feeling pains. Okay. When they hear the sound, sometimes it talks about they feeling the punishment with their skin. And sometimes it says they will take water that will be very bad. They will not be able to swallow it. You see, same water, someone that is old, okay, healthy, he takes water, is okay, he takes drinks, Coke, Fanta, everything. He eats good food. the odor of the food smells well, good for him. But someone that is not okay, smelling this good food, please take it far. I'm not okay. It's making me to want me to vomit. That's going to be the nature of the disbelievers in the hereafter.
Yes. So, Doctor, don't you think the treatment should be equal, if it must be done at all?
No, but why should it be equal? Because, let's look at it in this simple similitude.
Okay.
In this very life, we are answerable to our employers, we are answerable to our governments.
Okay.
And the constitution of every work, the constitution of every country is derived from the master constitution, that is the law of nature.
Okay.
And so even if employers and governments have that wisdom of putting in place something to guide the lives of the people so that there will be order, and in doing so, people get rewarded or get punished. In the workplace, it's a common knowledge that sometimes when you do very well at work, you are promoted, you are given some reward. And when, as a result of the infractions of your deeds, sometimes you can be demoted or be punished by way of getting a sack. Okay. So if these things are okay, if they are acceptable, in this very life, and if governments can do so, can do same, then why is it a big doubt? Why should it be a doubt that it can also happen in the life, to come, in the next or the afterlife? So yeah, because our deeds are different, we are not going to get the same results. We should not expect the same results, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that in any system at all. So why should one expect that we get the same results even if our inputs were different?
Okay. You scientists believe that usually we have two kinds of souls or beings, the positive and the negative. And going by the rules of nature, those with negative traits die, they suffer and die off. And those with positive ones are healthy and they live on. So now, going by that, can we say that after death, when the soul rises and goes into the space or wherever, some of them will die again and others will live on?
I think the analogy is not very right. In the scheme of things, we may have positive and negative entities within the same system. For instance, within one person, you can have positiveness and negativeness, okay? A positive entity and a negative entity. But these things are put in place to keep a balance, in place. It is so also in nature and in everything else. But it is not that maybe one is negative and for that matter, the negative is going to suffer some consequences. No, the negative needs the positive in order for the fullness of the operation to take place. For instance, we have electrons, we have protons, we have neutrons in every atom. Okay, in any entity, be it an atom. I'm coming from the atomic energy, so let me use the atom as the example. When you take every atom, you have the neutrons, we have the electrons, we have the protons. These things have charges. The protons are positive and the electrons are negative. So but all together are needed in the atom for the atom to be in a balance, okay? And each of them also have their usefulness. Okay. The electrons, for instance, are used in anything that is electrostatic, that is electronic, okay? Whereas the protons are mainly into the nuclear system, okay. The atomic system, whereby we use them for energy production, for many other things within the nuclear system. And so, yeah, you may have positives and negatives, but they exist within the same entity, playing different roles to keep that system in a balance and in fullness of operation.
Okay. But, within a particular body, whether protons or electrons, whether positively or negatively charged, will result in something. Once the positives are more than the negatives, then the result is different from that other body with more negatives than positives.
Yeah, so like I said, so it depends on how you look at it or from which point of view you are looking at it. Okay. But for instance, if you take a person, you have two thoughts. Every person has two thoughts. You have a negative thought, you have a positive thought, okay? So your negative thought, most often than not, tries to, subvert the positive thoughts. Okay. That is how it is. But when you stand, your guard, you can also use the positive thought to, maintain or to subvert the negative thought. But it also depends on one's strength and weakness. If your weakness, you have so much weakness in you, then that is the state or the condition where your negative becomes, more dominant on your positive, and you end up, exhibiting the negatives. So it depends on the choice of the individual and the standing of that individual, whether that individual is strong enough to, keep these things in balance or not.
Okay. So, your last word, Movi Sahib.
I would like to mention about the reward of the year after. Okay. God Almighty has put in place the issue of forgiveness, seeking for forgiveness. We call it istighfar, for man to be able to improve. Those who think that they have committed a lot of errors, sins religiously, they can seek for forgiveness from Almighty Allah. In that, even those who think that they are okay, they need to continue this. It's to seek strength. Sometimes istighfar will mean to cover and also mean to seek power, strength from God. And in the year after, God is the master. He can decide to just forgive someone who has committed error out of his mightiness. He's not restricted, limited to a particular law that he has to follow. He does it as he will. So he can forgive and he can punish anybody. So, but one thing, we should not lose hope. We should not lose hope. We should not despair of his mercy. Continue to humble ourselves before him. He's all forgiving.
Okay. Doctor?
Yeah, my last words are that we have to be very mindful of everything that we do. Everything that we do has its consequence, and we shouldn't take things for granted. We should think deeply into things before we eventually put them into action, so that in the end, we will not harm ourselves as a result of our own deeds. So, yeah, we should be focused. We should maintain order and be good citizens always.
Okay. This is all that time will allow us for on the show, Islam and Science. I have been discussing this topic, life after death, with Dr. Abdullah Muniru Dawood, who is a research scientist at Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, and Molvi Abdul Rauf Omoyele. He is a lecturer at Jamia Ahmadiyya International. Yeah, I think there is an agreement here that when the soul, that when a body dies, the soul leaves the body. As to where the soul goes, science cannot tell. But religion, specifically Islam, believes that when the soul leaves the body, it goes to account. Then after that, a new life cycle begins, whose position is determined by the positivities and negativities incurred by the body whilst alive on earth. The show remains Islam and Science. Join us same day, same time next week for another discussion. I am Hafiz Din Akram, your host. May the peace and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon us.